What up, all my fight fans? So, with UFC 311 in the books, there's something I want to ask you guys. Is Islam Makhachev the greatest lightweight in the world? Is Islam Makhachev better than Khabib Nurmagomedov as far as the lightweight goes? Let me know what you're thinking regarding that. I'm going to tell you what I think. Right now, no. Now, I know a lot of people are saying he has the most title defenses, and that's true. He does. He has the most title defenses. But it's just, and when I say this, when I make my statement, I am not knocking Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev is doing what he does best. He is by far one of the greatest fighters today. He is by far a very, 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 very talented mixed martial artist. The guy just all around great. His stand-up is on point. His ground game is on point. His submission skills are on point. Like, he is like literally boss level. When you go through all the fighters, when you go through everywhere, when you're fighting when you're playing Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, he is at that top of the mountain. You know, that's how good he is today. But with his record, it's hard to put him past guys like BJ Penn or even Khabib Nurmagomedov a little bit. Hell, even Benson Henderson a little bit. Why? Because you look at his title defenses. He won in a flawless victory over Charles Oliveira. I can't talk about that highly enough. Like, there's been very few flawless victories in the MMA world, in the MMA game. Look at Eddie Alvarez, Conor McGregor. Look at Anderson Silva versus Forrest Griffin. Flawless. And that's what Islam did to Charles Oliveira. But as far as his title defenses go, 2 against a featherweight in Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, the guy, Alexander Volkanovski, wanted to take on Islam Makhachev and prove himself that he can actually be, because he was actually number 1 pound for pound at that point, and that proved that he can be the lightweight champion of the world as well as the featherweight champion of the world. He gave him that shot. Not Islam's fault, but still, nonetheless, he was a featherweight. Then he goes and does another challenger in Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier has been fighting for a very long time. The guy has miles. The guy has damage written all over him. He is still one hell of a fighter, one of my favorite fighters for sure. Must action, all action, must see TV for sure. But nowhere near the prime Dustin Poirier. Not even the Dustin Poirier where Khabib fought him. And that was back in, I want to say, 2019, maybe 2018, somewhere around there. So it's been some time for Dustin Poirier. And we've seen him getting choked out multiple times. And within those title defenses, one more against a late notice Renato Moicano that is climbing the rankings, but definitely not the top 10 guy. Definitely not. You know, right now he's able to do what he's able to do because the lightweights is just a little bit more on the downside because of the fighters that are getting a little bit more older. I would have loved to seen him fight against Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, or Charles Oliveira before getting a title shot, but we all know the circumstances that took place at UFC 311, so it is what it is. Again, none of this is Islam Makhachev's fault. Now, before I get into those title defenses, Islam Makhachev, again, all-around great fighter, one of the best in the world, but just the time that he is born in, the time that he is fighting in with the lightweights, it's just a little bit more different. Where he's at his prime, he's at his peak, he's at his best, and a lot of these fighters have already fought for the title. Some of them fought for the title multiple times, and they ran their course, they ran their miles, and it's just hard for them now. They're a little bit more of the downhill instead of fighting someone in the uphill. I guess the only person that he could fight that's right there with him would be Arman Tsarukyan. Would give him a lot of credit. So with that being said, his title defenses, we saw him against that first fight with Alexander Volkanovski. A lot of people say he didn't get time to rehydrate, but be that as it may, he did not look good in that at all. A lot of people actually gave the first fight to Alexander Volkanovski. The second fight, he knocked out Alexander Volkanovski, but we all remember Alexander Volkanovski was not even training at all until he got a late notice and asked to replace Charles Oliveira, who was hurt at that time, and that's when he got a knockout. Islam knocked out Alexander Volkanovski, and that was that. Dustin Poirier, again, not in the prime, not in his prime, and not fresh. The guy has been through wars, he's been through fights, he's had so much mileage on his car, it's unbelievable. So again, and then Renato Moicano, again, we saw what he was able to do. Great. He didn't need to, it's really impressive the fact that he didn't need to prepare for Renato Moicano. But then we all know Renato Moicano, we've seen what happened to him in the featherweights, and we've seen what happened to him against higher upper echelon of guys in the featherweights and the lightweights, and just things did not go his way either for Renato. So a lot of these fights are not extremely impressive, but we get it. So that's why I look at the title defenses and I compare them to guys like BJ Penn, who fought Kenny Florian, Joe Daddy Stevenson, Diego Sanchez, and so forth. Matt Hughes, just all these other great legends. Then we've seen what Benson Henderson was able to do twice against Frankie Edgar, Gilbert Melendez and Nate Diaz, and then we've seen what even Frankie Edgar was able to do, BJ Penn, just all these great legends. And you know what it is? All of them were lightweights. When they fought, they were actually lightweights, and a lot of them were actually in their prime, and that is something Islam Makhachev really needs. He needs a up-to-date, prime, today opponent, not somebody that's past their prime, not somebody that's not before the prime, and not somebody that's too much too soon for them.